Hey everybody, I'm Pastor Bill from Open Door Baptist Church in Morehead City, and thanks for coming back for another word of encouragement. These are weekday videos that we're putting out to give us all some tools for taking our attention and focus off of the world around us and the despair and disunity and disruptions that are coming from the world, and to put our thoughts and focus back onto God's words of encouragement in His Bible. And today we are going to continue our pattern of looking at the next passage in our E100 reading plan that our church is participating in. And we're going to look at chapters 39 through 41 of Genesis. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to read all three of those chapters, but we're just going to see a couple of bookends here to the story of Joseph in Egypt. And in chapter 39 of Genesis, beginning in verse 19, we see Joseph in the house of Potiphar. And this was what we read. When his master heard the story that his wife told him, "These are the things that your slave did to me," he was furious and had him thrown into prison where the king's prisoners were confined. So Joseph was there in prison. Now, I am going to skip ahead to chapter 41 and begin in verse 41, where we read, "So Pharaoh said this to Joseph, 'See, I am placing you over the land of Egypt.' Pharaoh removed his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand. He clothed him with fine linen garments and placed a gold chain around his neck. And he had Joseph ride in his second chariot, and servants called out before him, 'Abrek, abrek.' So he placed him over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, 'I am Pharaoh, but no one will be able to raise his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt without your permission.'" Oh my goodness, what happened in those two chapters? What happened really in chapter 40 that changed everything from Joseph being left to rot in what Joseph called in the pit? Joseph thrown down into the pit by a furious man, and then in chapter 41, he is being raised to an exalted kingly sovereign reign over all the land of Egypt as a foreigner, as a Jew. What happened? Well, if you are familiar with the story of Joseph, then you already know what happened is that there were some dreams, and a baker and a cupbearer had dreams, and then eventually Pharaoh himself has a mysterious dream, two dreams as a matter of fact, and Joseph is pulled up out of the pit, and he is given wisdom to tell Pharaoh what his dreams mean and how to save all of the land of Egypt from a horrible famine. And of course, Pharaoh recognizes the wisdom in this, and he exalts Joseph, as you just heard, to a kingly status over all of the land of Egypt. And really, the highlight of encouragement that I want to give you today from these chapters is this. When Joseph was thrown into the pit, when his life was basically taken from him and he was thrown down into the pit, he had no way of telling what the future held for him, except for those dreams that he had had before. And I can only imagine he clung to God's words that he had given him, God's message that he had given him during that time. And those must have been sustaining to him while he was in the pit, while he is down in the prison. And also, one other monumental thing, really the key to this entire text, is found in chapter 39, verse 21, where we read, while Joseph was in the prison, "But the Lord was with Joseph and extended kindness to him." That is the key to the entire text. The Lord was with Joseph in the pit. And you know, this picture actually is just a shadowy reflection of something even more substantial that happens in the New Testament. In the Gospels, we read of another innocent man whose life was taken from him. He was treated as a slave. He was abused and thrown down into the pit, or into a tomb, in this case, a borrowed tomb. But he was not left there. The high king of all the universe brings him up out of the pit, doesn't he? After 3 days, another thing repeated in this story that I didn't read, and he is exalted to a kingly sovereign status, not over Egypt, but over all of the earth. King Jesus. What a wonderful picture to keep in mind when you feel like you have been maybe thrown down into the pit and are tempted to be in despair and discouragement. Remember Joseph. Remember that God is with you, just as he was with Joseph. And then put your eyes on the resurrected King, King Jesus.